Thank you for tuning in to the Practical Preservation Podcast. Please take a moment to visit our website, practicalpreservationservices.com, for additional information and tips to help you restore your historical home. If you've not done so, please subscribe to us on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud, and also like us on Facebook. Welcome to the Practical Preservation Podcast, hosted by Danielle and Jonathan Kepperling. Kepperling Preservation Services is a family-owned business based in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, dedicated to the preservation of our built architectural history for today's use as well as future generations. Our weekly podcast provides you with expert advice specific to the unique needs of renovating a historic home, educating by sharing our From the Trenches preservation knowledge and our guests' expertise, balancing modern needs while maintaining the historical significance, character, and beauty of your period home.
Today on the Practical Preservation Podcast, I have John Phillips with me from Willet Hauser. Am I saying that correct?
It's actually Associated Crafts and Willet Hauser Architecture Glass.
Okay, thank you. And so tell me a little bit about your background.
Well, Associated Crafts was founded by Mary and I, my wife, in 1997. And in 2014, we purchased our largest competitor, which it's the family ownership of that studio, Willet Hauser Architecture Glass, was wanting to retire. So they came to us, asked us if we were interested. And of course we were, being that it's kind of the pinnacle of the stained glass industry. Mm-hmm. It has a 120-year-old legacy that we were able to merge in 2014. And we were fortunate enough from that point to able to continue the growth. In 2018, we were one of Inc. 5000's fastest growing companies, which was something we're very proud of because, you know, a lot of people think that stained glass, this medium and preservation and stuff is on a decline when it's quite the contrary. We're growing leaps and bounds, and we've been growing ever since, and we'll continue to grow. My background was personally, my dad actually went to work for Hauser Art Glass Company back before they purchased Willet back in '73. And as an 8-year-old, I was riding around with him, learning the business. And then in 1979 or 80, Dad started his own studio, which as I got old enough to work, I worked in a studio, then eventually in the field, and then just couldn't get away from it. I enjoyed it so much, and I had personally really, everybody's always in awe of the new window aspect, but I really like the restoration and the preservation portion.
Yeah.
I'm sure you do too, huh?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I don't know if you're familiar with John Leake from Historic Houseworks. He's in Maine, but he always says that you can tell a lot about somebody with what they were doing when they were like 8 or 10. And he says most people he talks to that are in the trades were working with their parents.
Isn't that the truth? Yeah. Yeah, I could never escape it. I just kept getting drawn back into it. Unfortunately, so it's been a very, very good life for us. You know, very, very rewarding, and it's provided my family everything we've needed. So, and a lot of enjoyment on top of that. So
yes, yeah,
we live to work and work.
Very, very true. Were you going to say something else about your background though before I interrupted you?
No, I just, you know, Mary and I started Associated Crafts in 1997 as we were growing our family. And first we started as a subcontractor. Actually, to Willet Hauser was one of the companies that we subcontracted to. And then in 2008, when the economy was going so bad, we basically went out on our own and just started grabbing market share and just a lot of success just doing business the old-fashioned way. And we continued to grow until we were fortunate enough to be able to, and we were afforded the opportunity to purchase Willet in 2014. So it's been a long journey, but it's been a good one.
Yes, yeah, and I think that there were we lived through the crash in 2018 or 2008. We were finishing up the biggest project we had ever done, and we had projects lined up, and in that week everything that we had lined up canceled, and you had to take a pivot and start doing things differently, and then you could survive. But I don't think a lot of companies were able to pivot as quickly as maybe some of the smaller companies could have.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, I people always ask me, how's business going? I go, well, it's going great, and they would say,
Right.
well, how about with the economy? And we always laugh and tell them I didn't get the memo.
Right. Yeah.
And what it did for us is we just worked harder, and other
Right.
people were pulling it in, sitting at home, trying to weather the storm, and we just went out and grabbed market share and we just grew by leaps and bounds just by working harder then. I mean, everybody always says it's all about hard work. Well, it truly is.
It is.
And, you operate with integrity and you work hard, you do what you say you're going to do. And it's just amazing how much you can grow business.
Yeah, very, very true. So tell me about Associated Crafts. We talked a little bit about the history, but you talked about the 120-year, legacy that you bought into also. So tell me a little bit about the company and your history, your services offered.
Sure. So, Willet itself has been kind of a who's who of American stained glass. I mean, from Grace Cathedral windows on San Francisco to St. John's of Divine, West Point, and many, many other historic projects. I mean, its legacy, I think right now we're operating a library in Winona that has about 28,000 renderings, 25 to 28,000 renderings. Slides, there was probably 20-some thousand slides. There's probably 6,000 books, and just renderings of work that's been completed over this last more than a century. And then not to mention restoration work. Willet was originally in Pittsburgh, and then in the early 1900s went to Philadelphia, and then Hauser's was started in Winona. When I took over, there was just too much rogue behavior, so to speak. We were having a studio out there in Philadelphia that was really operating without very good management at the time. Had great management for many years, and then we kind of got into bad things. So we pulled everybody in. We sold the building in Philadelphia. We centralized it in Minnesota. We were able to go out and get great restoration painters like Melissa Janda and new window painters like Melissa Janda. And then our head of art art development is Kathy Jordan, which is one of the world's most famous glass painters, and just an amazing woman, and who lives and breathes glass, and just incredible woman, incredible artist, incredible painter, everything. And she's been like my big sister, and I've really given her the art side. So she's last year she probably single-handedly sold more stained glass than anybody in the history of this business. And she also has some influence on historic painting, like she just painted duplicated some faces and stuff, or touch-up painted some stuff on a Lafarge window in the Philadelphia area, which we pull on her expertise in restoration and replication painting for that. Did a great job. We do an incredible amount of, we kind of break down the restoration process or repairs into repairs, and that's stuff that we do on site, from changing broken glass to pulling out panels and reducing bulges and fixing structure things, simpler things that we can do without going into a full-blown restoration, which a historic restoration is referred to as reletting, where we go take them out, take them back, document them, and go into that. We also do an incredible amount of restoration, but we do an incredible amount of repair as well.
Right.
And then we also, every one of our crews has a master craftsman woodworker. So we do a lot of wood repair, from sashes to jambs to even louvers. We've done some louvers for churches, because we have access. So it's nice to have and our field production lead is a man named Robert Bohannon, and Robert came from the furniture industry. So it's been really great to utilize his talents with frame repair and just, the millwork, because as you know, being back east, especially, we just got, I also grew up in Pennsylvania. So, we just got some really ornate woodwork, and it's just been incredible to have his influence out there. So we come in, we're truly turnkey. We can repair their frames. We can repair their stained glass. We can, whether it's repair or whether it's complete historic restoration, and whether it's a collectible like a Tiffany, we can handle everything from the conservation to the historic restoration to repairs. And then we also have our exclusive protective storm covering that simply just surpass everybody. We have the ability to install a protective covering system that has a smaller profile than pretty much anything on the market. We extrude it ourselves. We have spent years perfecting the temperance of the metal. We also, every truck has a mechanical, an electric bender on there that we've had specifically developed for us, so that we can install our protective glazing, our clear flow system, exterior, so we can protect all the historic woodwork, where we can still put the bends in there so you can still enjoy the influence of that millwork and all its curves and all its splendor. But yet it's a removable covering that, it's installed permanently, but it can be taken off. So all students protecting the historic works.
Right.
And, I'm not going to tell you that, protective covering is more aesthetically pleasing than the natural millwork that we've all, enjoyed, and especially, it's around the turn of the century that they were putting in. But our goal has been to protect that and put up something that is as aesthetically pleasing as we can, but has all the benefits of installation, protection, the weathering, climate control for the interior. And then of course it's all in-frame vented. So we have this nice flow of air from bottom to top on the exterior, as well as the ability to dry up any condensation or anything. So it does really help preserve these historic works as well as their millwork.
I was not aware of your product until I was prepping for the podcast, and it solves a lot of the problems that I see on church windows, especially with the stained glass. Like oftentimes people just stick up plexiglass, and that gets all gray or cloudy, and it also traps all the condensation in. So then you're ruining the woodwork. There's a lot of problems that your clear flow protective glazing solves. So I think it's a great solution. And I also think that it's great that you have a master craftsman on every crew, because that's something that we often, because we're primarily woodworkers, people will call us, the stained glass people will call us and want us to come and fix the frame. But if you can do that all in-house, that's perfect. So I think those are really smart business decisions.
Well, we're trying, it's been a need for the customers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because,
yeah.
We love working on historic works with there's been works that we do where we're working with things like yours, where they come in and they do all the woodwork, and then we come in, and that's great too.
Right.
But for these smaller jobs, when you're reaching into the middle of Iowa and you have this historic church with these nice windows, they don't usually have the budget, and we kind of want to try to be one-stop shop for them and be able to hand it. And the other thing too is a stained glass studio. Most stained glass studios, they want to do stained glass. They don't want to do the removals. They don't even want to do the reinstallation. They certainly don't want to do storm covering. And we have made it a lifetime of perfecting this with, professional glazers perfecting the storm covering.
Right.
So we're kind of training it all into one so that we can have a complete solution. We've even recently went as far as partnering with Marvin windows and doors.
Yeah.
Because in some of these historic buildings, we need solutions for for windows that aren't stained glass, just historic type windows. And we were able to work with them, and then also provide some of the office buildings with replacement windows, and just serve our customers that are out there.
Right.
And it's every day we just work at trying to get better and provide the services that they need, listen to them. And one of the things that we have done over the years is we because of the logistics traveling all over the country,
Right.
we have been able to figure out how to manage our teams in the field. And one of the things we've done is we've had those master woodworkers and project managers that are working in the field, and we've empowered them to be the point of contact for the customer. So the questions, when you're doing restoration, as you guys know better than even us, nobody understands exactly this whole restoration, but these buildings are very important to them. They're held in very high regard. They have historical significance. They're sentimental, and people are curious. And honestly, our clientele is largely churches. So we have a lot of retired contractors or retired people that have time that want to see, and they just love their churches. So we've empowered these people. Yeah. I mean, we all giggle about how long they're going to spend there, but hey, the bottom line is they become friends for years and really enjoyed it, and they want to know. So we have a project manager on site who's also a master woodworker, who we empower to be in charge and be that point of contact for them. They don't have to call their consultant or call the office. They work right through that person. They're right there. And it's been one of the biggest reasons why we have 100% customer satisfaction. And we have a process where every day they're sending in completion photos and progress photos to our senior team that's inspecting them every day. Once our projects are completed, not only do we do a pre-construction walkthrough with the customer, and as we just alluded to, they're always there and answering questions every day, but we also do a final walkthrough and get every question, every item handled right there. And then once they're done, our project managers then have to walk through the whole site using FaceTime or video conferencing and have the senior team approve their work. And even if the customers approve the work and they're delighted, we see anything we don't like, we redo it right there, because we take it very serious that these people that hire us because they're not stained glass experts.
Right.
They're entrusting us to be their stained glass experts. And quite frankly, none of them really know what's going on.
They don't.
So
That's true. Yeah.
It's up to us to have, we take that job very seriously. So even if they're going, oh, it's beautiful, it's great, sign here, and they're all done, and we don't like it, we've took windows apart and redid them after the customer sitting there going, what do you mean it's beautiful? It's not exactly it, but that's what happens. We got to take this. And what we get to do, you and I, is restore stuff that was made a generation ago, and we want to preserve it for the next generation. And I always thought that was a very special thing, a very, just a huge responsibility to be given that stewardship of these buildings. And we take that very seriously. And so does my entire team, which now is around 90 people.
Oh my goodness. That control is very important though, when you get when you have people working multiple locations and doing all of that. So I think that's really, really smart. I feel like we have a similar philosophy with the stewardship. We're just here to help maintain these buildings so that they can continue on. One thing that I did think was interesting that I didn't even write in my outline to you was that as part of your service is that you offer options for financing for churches, and I thought that I haven't seen that often, and I thought that was really that's just another aspect of the service that you offer.
That's been an amazing thing. We work with Griffin Capital they provide it, and what's funny is, a lot of churches will sit there and go, well, we don't want to borrow money, da 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 da.
Right.
And then we end up getting them to talk to Griffin. They find out how competitive they are, how easy it is for them. And what ends up happening, they may be looking at, a $500,000 job with stained glass, and they're all thinking about that. Well, along comes Griffin Capital and goes, hey, we can loan you blank, blank, blank at this interest rate, and here's how it's paid, and here's the fees. And honestly, they're easier than my home loan was. And, they're just really good people to work with. John is kind of in charge of it over there, unbelievable guy. But so they come in, and next thing you know, they're going, you know what? Instead of doing this huge capital campaign, we'll go ahead and do the elevator. We'll do the inside painting. We'll do the exterior painting. We'll do the stained glass. We'll do the reflooring. Whatever all those projects are, they'll borrow it all at one time, put it in one deal, and then they'll go out and do the capital campaign for it, knowing exactly where they're at. They're getting it all done. And what's exciting and unbelievable about it is churches start to grow. I mean, it's a shame that it's that way, but it's not. When they see activity in a church and they see a church that's beautiful, that's progressing, that's showing growth, they come to it. And then they start getting more involved. There's more fellowship. There's more participation from all kinds of new membership. And it's amazing. Every one of them that we've seen that has taken advantage of that and did it all and does that growth, the faster they fix those things and keep going, it's just amazing what happens to the growth. It's just, it's like you build it, they will come. And it just happens. And I mean, so and then the other thing that we've done, and Shelby Henning in our office has been really, really had some good luck with this, is just doing some little fundraising things. We have the ability in our proposal system to provide donors costs, and they've got some little tricks and techniques that they'll work with the committee. We've even sold coloring books,
that's
stained glass window coloring books. Where it's a hard way to make a lot of money, but stuff that youth groups can go and they buy them for I don't know the prices. I'm kind of out of that, but I think it was like $5 and they retail for like $20 or something. And then the Sunday school group does it or whatever, and it's been really cool. And then they've got some adopt a window programs that they help with, but just a lot of stuff. And we try to support them a lot because again, that's part of our service. We are the experts. We're there to help them not just do the project, but all the questions before. And the other thing too, that people don't get is these people that sit on the boards of these historic projects, they're being entrusted by the community to do this, and they don't know what they're doing. They're not stained glass people. They're not historic restoration people. And they're always, they're always being critiqued and expected. They've got a lot of responsibility on them.
Right.
So I think to help them, and we've always come from a point of, everybody thinks it's all about the sell. You do your stuff and sales happen, right? They come to you. We try to educate them. We love them to be involved. Our proposals are very explicit. Our information, we offer a project guide that you can download off of our website. That's just like kind of a 101 of stained glass projects. And we offer that. We even offer it in audio. We actually offer our American Legacy book, which is a book about our studio, in audio book, or also a PDF version that also can be bought on Amazon. We think the education part is the most important thing. Yeah. If we can educate the customer and help them make educated decisions, they'll be happy. Their community will be happy. And quite frankly, if they're educated, we know we do a really good job, and it becomes pretty obvious that there's a lot of difference between us and what else is available out there. And we get obviously more work of that than by about 5 times more than our next biggest competitor. And there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
We take we're proud of that.
Yeah, I agree. I think education's a huge part because people don't understand. They might, and I agree with you. People know that they love their buildings. They know, but they don't necessarily know what they need to do next, or what's the best course of action. They're looking for somebody to educate them and to explain to them, and we do a lot of that also. There was a couple of years ago, we were at a church where they wanted a new front door, and the bottom of the frame had started to rot, but it was an inch or so off. So Jonathan's like, well, we'll just, we can cut that, put a new piece in, do a Dutchman repair. And somebody from the building committee got really upset and was like, no, I want the whole frame changed to some, vinyl PVC. And Jonathan's like, well, if that's the approach you're going to take, we're not the right people for you. And about 2 weeks later, the church called back and said, he's not on the meeting anymore, and we want you.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's
but
great.
it doesn't make sense to throw materials away that have been there for 150 years if you can just repair it. And if you want a different approach, there are people that can do that. So I'm sure you have
Right.
conversations like that too.
Oh yeah. I mean, we're always, both of us are always taxed with the budget, and some of them buildings, even though they're very old, they're not very ornate. They're,
Right.
they're beyond repair. I mean, you got to make quality decisions,
Yeah.
but that's how
Yeah,
you
there's
get into
definitely
conversations with them. You get into conversations, you tell people about what there is. And, we have a lot of trouble in historic restoration with people understanding them, especially older windows where you have, paint delamination, and
right.
there's two schools of that. I mean, mostly people want to conserve it and keep it as is and basically just stabilize what's left. And then there's those that want to throw away historic glass and repaint it as new. And we're very clear with our customers on that, and we bring it out to them and they make that choice. But
Yeah.
it's difficult. I mean, sometimes some people have this expectation, others have that expectation. So we have to be very clear. We document things well. We try to educate them well. And it's just all part of the process.
It is.
We talk about these people that they get taxed to be the stewards of these communities, and they're on these committees, and they have to worry about finances. They have to understand what they're doing. They have to do, so much stuff. And here they are
Right.
completely unprepared for it. Yes, they might be great contractors. They might be great business people. They might be great whatever, and just smart, good people who care. But, I've spent a lifetime doing this specific thing, so I am qualified, and not many are doing that.
Right.
And so we do try to help them. And then, of course, then it comes down to price. And, the mistakes that I see a lot are people will come to us and they'll be like, oh, well, your price is higher. And I would hear that. And then we would get into discussions and we would find out that there was way different things that were happening in these proposals. So
Right.
one of the things that my team developed was a price match guarantee. And we've probably used it, I'm going to say 50 plus times.
Okay.
And never once was the proposal that we were supposed to be, well, you guys are doing exactly the same thing, but this studio is, 20% lower or 30% lower
Right.
or whatever, or 10% lower. Never once in more than 50 of them has that ever been the case.
Right.
So
I
what
can
we
believe
do in
that.
order yeah, it's amazing. So what we do in order to do a price match is we say, send us the other proposal. We'll compare and verify that it's apples to apples. And every time there's either a difference in the kind of work, the materials used, or whatever. So then we go back with the customer, and what it really does is it's in some customers are like, oh, well, I'm not going to show you the other person's, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not, right. And then because they are always scared of what they're being sold,
Right.
instead of trying to help them buy.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening, the ones that have taken advantage of it sit there and get an education. They're going, well, what do you mean you use this brand of sealant and that brand of sealant? Well, here's the difference, and here's the
Right.
cost difference.
This
and
is why. Yeah, this is why we do it this
right.
way.
And here they're doing, we're doing historic restoration. They're just doing a section of it or whatever. And there's just many, many things that we get to talk about, or, the framing that's used or whatever.
Mhm.
And
Right.
what ends up happening is it's a way for them to really get into the nuts and bolts of it. And, I'm pretty sure that everybody that has got a proposal for us realizes that we are who we are. And it's just a lot of times they just want to, they got to be conscious of the price. And so being able to get that opportunity to go page by page and really get them into their due diligence of accepting this project has just been so helpful for them. And I was really proud of that idea. I thought that was, it's been very
That is-
successful.
yeah.
It's very, very helpful to them. And ultimately it's best for the projects, because even if we don't get one, even if they decide, we even if we price match it and they don't get it or whatever,
Right.
it doesn't matter. At least they've made a really good, educated thing that they can be comfortable from, that their community can be comfortable in, and they did their proper stewardship, and we're glad to help them do that.
Yeah, I really agree with you, and I think that's really smart, because oftentimes you've experienced this, I'm sure. They kind of know they want to do a project, but they don't really have a defined scope of work. So you bring, everybody wants to get three estimates. And so they get
Sure.
3 different opinions on how to approach it. And then there's never a conversation about why you're doing this approach versus this approach. So I think that's really smart.
Well, and in my industry, there's such small companies that
right.
they'll go get 3 bids, right? Because that's what society's taught us, especially the construction industry.
Somebody came up with 3 as the number.
Yeah. And the construction industry has just always been, here's the specs, bid to the specs, get 3 bids, and then the low bid wins. And honestly, it's been very, very detrimental to the quality of work. And now you come to something with historic significance. It's not like putting up a really poor stick-built house.
Right.
You can't, this is significant. It needs to really be true. So you got to kind of throw all that out, and you got to actually look at what you're doing. And one of the things that my pet peeves has been is, and I get it, because people are so, they're given this big responsibility. They got so many people looking over that don't know what they're doing. So what do? They go out and they hire a consultant. And in my industry, the quality of consultants is laughable. I mean, anybody that basically is an academic that has read a few books has now become a consultant. I mean,
right.
We've actually had consultants make comments that just blew me away. Like, where are you going to plug in the 5-in-1? The 5-in-1. The 5-in-1 is not a power tool. Right. But this is a consultant who these people have paid a great deal of money.
Oh, goodness.
But the problem is they're scared of the business. Like, we're going to take advantage of them, so they need a consultant.
Right.
And they end up getting a consultant who doesn't have an inkling of the information. And then even from a business standpoint, I've read some of the specs on safety and what they're supposed to do. They don't even understand OSHA.
Right.
And here we are, a nearly $20 million company who's got a full-time safety team. We do understand OSHA. We do understand safety. And I just tried to do my best to get people to pin us down, ask the questions, and go through the education so that they can get a real good project that they understand everything about it. And we try to give them all the tools possible to do that. We want to talk with them. We want to work with them. We're passionate about it. We want them to learn. But unfortunately, some think they're going to go out and get a consultant who's never really done the work, help them, and that's disappointing. And then the other thing is, some of the smaller stained glass studios, although, it's a mom and pop, like me and Mary used to be a mom and pop, right? And they do very good work, but they're limited in the scopes that they can do. I mean, they don't have teams in the field that can go out and do something on site that really can be done on site successfully, because they have never done that. They don't have the skills. They're not versed in that facet. Their business is not set up for that. So they go to the customer and say, "Oh, you can't replace just that one panel and fix it. You have to take the whole window out and relet it." Not because that's really what the customer needs, but that's what fits their business scope of work.
Right.
And we are fortunate that we're not limited to doing business a certain way, because we can do it every way, because we've got all those facets covered, of business covered. And so then here we got a customer, and then they go and they get another studio, again, good people. They can do some good work. Well, they don't do storm covering. So now they're out getting a bid from the local glazer who's putting up storm covering, and the glazer's saying, "Well, you don't want to use this kind of framing of that." Well, meanwhile, they're not even stained glass people.
Right.
So now the poor customer sits there, and he's got one guy's trying to sell him one thing because it fits his skills. He's got another guy's trying to sell him part of it because that's what they do, and they're getting somebody else to help them with this. And then there's us.
Right.
And they're confused, and the prices will be all over from, whatever, because, here we are, poor customer. So we got to sit back and we try to break it down, try to get in conversations, try to get them to ask questions. and try to lose this. We're trying to sell something. We're trying to help you buy, not try to sell you something.
Right.
Because honestly, these projects are so, you and I have just been given the opportunity. We don't have ownership in them. Nobody does. We just get to take care of them for a generation.
Right.
And then pass it on to the next. And that's what we're trying to do and trying to help them do.
Yeah. No, I really agree. And I think that is, that's, and you probably see that much more than I do, but I feel like that sometimes is the detriment. I don't know if that's the right word for working, or the downside maybe for working with churches, is the committee process, and everybody kind of has an opinion and nobody's really the expert. And then they get nervous and they feel like they need an expert. It just kind of snowballs.
Yeah. Well, and we don't have any regulation in our industry. There's a stained glass association that's honestly just made up of a bunch of hobbyists, and they're all very small studios that just don't even begin to understand this. And they're out there for the customer, but honestly, they're more part of the confusion than the help.
Right.
And there is some glass guilds that got some talented people, like there's American Glass Guild. Actually, Kathy, who works with us, is currently the president of that. And there's a lot of good talent in there, but they're mostly, it's mostly artists and people that individuals. But it's just unfortunate that, that's why we just try to do our best. And we just, every night we tell the truth. We go out of our way to help people learn, and we can sleep with it every night. We get more projects than anybody in the country, actually anybody in the world. We are the biggest in the world right now. And, but we won't get them all, but we just keep trying to help people. Keep trying to help them make good decisions and then do good work for them.
Yeah, I think that is the best approach. When I was looking at your website, I was noticing that you had like a distinction between repair, historic restoration, and conservation. Can you explain that a little bit to me?
Yeah. So repair is, broken glass, some brace bars that have come off, maybe a section's bulged. And our teams are set up we basically got mobile studios, so we can go on site, we can pull out that bulge section, lay it on a table, work it back flat, re-lead it if necessary, resecure the braces, put them back on. We can replace glass, those kind of repairs, just maintenance stuff, those kind of things, small repairs, maintenance stuff, and we'll call that repair work. So then we got, historic restoration, which is where we go, we photo document, we remove, we crate, we transport to the studio, we clean, disassemble, reassemble with all the new lead came, rebrace, reinstall, complete full re-lead, historic restoration, edge gluing of cracks, replica painting, whatever is called for.
Right.
Right there at the studio with the studio team. And that's the restoration project. Then conservation is kind of a museum quality repair. Sometimes it will be just repair, or sometimes it will be full blown re-lead. Sometimes it will be a mixture of both. And conservations usually help for more collectibles, I'd like to call them.
Okay.
The Tiffany windows, the ones that are, they're all special, but they're kind of the high-end collectibles. Tiffany's what comes to mind right now. Some Frederick Zettler windows, Lafarge. There's several that are out there, and those are kind of more of a museum quality. And we're pretty fortunate because Kathy's actually grew up on that side, on the conservation side, and loves it as well as the new windows. We also have several teammates in the studio that come from the conservation side, and of course they love to do that. One of our restoration consultants that's in the field out of Massachusetts grew up on the table doing that before getting into the consulting side. So we're able to take a customer and walk them through those same processes and help them out and explain those to them and kind of recognize what needs to be done. That's the one big advantage of a studio of ours. We do a
Right.
lot of every type of work. So there's a lot of institutional knowledge.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and we all get to draw from it. We, as a company, we have we have a company-wide chat where we share ideas daily, all day long, all weekend long, whatever. So people are learning from the different things. We have quarterly advisory team meetings where each of the team heads work together, and we pass information that way. And then we also have biannual meetings where they call it the State of the Union. It's kind of funny, but where we actually share everything that's been going on with the studio and anything important. And then we just do constant training.
Right.
And we not only train with sending people to painting class. Of course, Kathy puts on painting classes every year as well. And not just that stuff, and as well as mixing them up with, apprentices, with project managers. We also have an apprentice program that we redeveloped. And we got people putting in apprenticeship hours. So we've got a way of actually getting people starting their career as
Right.
apprentices, whether it be in the studio. They come through there, they document hours, they test out at different sections. And we've been, in the last 7 years, Shelby will want to strangle me for not knowing the answer to this, but I think we've graduated 3 journeymen and like 4 craftsmen
Oh, that's great.
so far.
Yeah.
And then we also have kind of the, once they start, they get all the basics in the studio, then they kind of either head down that mastery of the kind of studio operations, or they go down kind of the mastery of the field operations, which is the removals and storm coverings and in-situ repairs and all that.
Right.
Or they end up going over to the art department. Obviously in the painting and art department, they all get a taste of it, so they all understand a little bit of it.
Right.
But the ones that end up progressing in there obviously have to have an artistic hand and, a specialized talent that, although all of us would probably love to be able to paint and draw pretty pictures, we just don't all have that skill.
Right.
Especially at the level of this studio.
Right. Yeah. Although we want to.
Although some
Yeah.
of us think we do, but but it's never been me. I can barely write my name. That's why I like typing it.
Oh,
So,
that's funny.
I knew that being an artist was not something I would get to do.
Oh.
So what do? I hire the best artists, and then I get to
Well,
watch them work.
that is also a talent.
Yes, thanks.
So I know you mentioned it before, but did you have anything else that you wanted to share about the clear flow protective glazing? Because I think that's really an interesting product.
Yeah, I'm really proud of it. I mean, it's taken, like, I can remember as a kid, we've just been developing it. We were able to vent it. There's some products out there that have in-frame venting,
Right.
but it's never really done very nicely. It's usually big and bulky, and it's limited. We were able to get with Pella Windows and use their breather tubes, so we could actually customize it, because not only is it important to vent a window, preferably you want to vent to the interior,
Right.
but that's rarely what we get to do.
Right.
So this is kind of the second best option, and doing it this well, it's really not been a problem. And all that really has to do with changing the condensation points, which,
Right.
In medieval glass, that's a really big deal. In the glass today, it's probably a lesser deal. But we've been able to really be able to vent these properly. And, there's one thing to have enough volume of ventilation, but there's also an importance to have the specific positioning of the ventilation, and this product allows us to be able to customize each window to have not only the right volume of ventilation, but also have the correct positioning of ventilation. So we're getting just optimum ventilation of this protective covering. So you're getting the absolute best protection. So you don't have the heat build up. You don't have you're still the ability to dry it out. And aesthetically, you can't even hardly tell it's there. So we're keeping a smaller profile, letting the architecture, the existing architecture be dominant. We're venting it very well. We're even being able to camouflage and blend it into the window by using bending techniques with benders. The benders that we have had made and customized that we finally developed, and I will tell you, they're costing us a lot of money per truck,
Yeah.
a lot of money per truck. They're like over 500 pounds. They're on sliders, but the things that we were able to do on site with this material is just amazing. I mean, it's just head and shoulders above whatever else is weight. And we use a lot of different protective coverings. You made the comment about acrylic before.
Right.
Actually, acrylic doesn't turn yellow. It's the polycarbonates that turn yellow.
Right. The plexiglass.
The acrylics, the plexiglass, which is an acrylic, actually stays 100% clear. And there's all kinds of testing on that, and I can show you. But the polycarbonates, or there is some acrylics that were mixed with polyvinyls that would then break down in the sun and cloud. But pure acrylics stay clear.
Right.
Polycarbonates would break down and turn yellow with the product. Lexan was the first one, extremely protective, almost virtually unbreakable. But after 10 years, it was breaking down. In fact, actually, a few years, it was breaking down. Yeah. Well, then they started using acrylic sprays over top of it to reduce the amount of yellowing. And what it did is it delayed yellowing until the expansion and contraction of the acrylic spray that was on top of the polycarbonate then basically frayed and allowed the ultraviolet in there, and then it would break down. And that was UV 10 for 10 years. And basically it would then break down then. But you'd have good protection then. So we do Lexan. I mean, if you're in a vandalism area or you're in an area with bad weather, you want something like, Tough-X or Lexan. Yeah. And then we put up a lot of acrylic because it is less expensive. It's lightweight. It's doesn't have, for a plastic, it has less deflection, but it's still plastic.
Right.
But it does provide them some protection, against hailstorms or, a baseball or kickball in the whatever.
Right. Yeah.
We also do an incredible amount of tempered glass. We also do some laminated glass. I mean, honestly, laminated glass to me has been kind of overpriced and overused, and the tempered glass gives you a little more. It's probably a little, it's about 4 times more strength than the laminated. However, when it does break, as we know, it all dices and falls out.
Right.
But we've had really good luck with tempered glass. It's been more reasonable to use. We still have used some float glass in some installations, again, some laminated. But we don't really try to sell a customer, here you need to use plexiglass, or you need to use, actually, I guess plexiglass not being made, you need to use an acrylic, or you need to use this, or you need to use that. We here's the pros and cons of them all. It's your church. It's, what do you feel comfortable with budget wise, protection wise, installation wise, whatever. And I'll tell you something, and let them make the choice, because, it's their church. But I just want to
and they know how.
Education thing, right?
Yeah.
It comes back to the education thing, help them make good decisions. But I'll tell you something that's really been really cool for us, is we've come up with a framing that is a little larger profile, not in depth.
Mm-hmm.
And we're using a 5/8 insulated unit in it. So we're actually able to put up protective covering that is tempered, or even a laminated exterior. That's an insulated glass unit, right? And instead of mounting it to the existing frame, we may mount it into the rough opening, right? So then you have no conduction between the new framing and the old frame, right? So basically, and then it's a thermal barrier unit. So you're creating this nice thermal barrier situation. So you're maximizing, not only are you getting great protection, but you're also maximizing energy efficiency.
Right.
And we're still able to bend to meet some architecture. Now, it's not a solution for some really ornate stuff,
right?
But it's a solution for, it's a new solution that's really a lot of people have been very, very interested in.
Yeah. Yeah, they're getting able to make those insulated units thinner and thinner, and it's nice. It's a nice application for some things. So that's exciting
Yeah.
to know that you have that as an option.
Yeah, and it's not a solution for every situation,
Right.
but there's a solution where it really fits right. And again, that comes back to education and taking the time to, as a customer, do yourself a favor and get involved in the communication and ask the questions. And as a vendor, be there to answer everything and be thorough.
Right.
And if you
that's
don't know the answer, don't make it up. Find
definitely.
It out,
Yeah, but I often will ask people, how do you use the space? Do you open your windows? Like, because that determines, the type of, window treatment I would recommend. Because if you're not going to open your windows, then it doesn't matter if you put a panel on it, but if you're going to use your windows, then you need a screen. So like it really depends. Each situation's unique. It's not a one size fits all.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
And again, education, talk, learn.
Right.
That's what's amazing. I mean, getting to meet people like yourself and others in this industry, I'm just learning every day. I'm 55 years old, and I've been doing this since, like I said, I started riding around at 8 years old with my dad. It's exciting. There's so much to it. If your heart's in the right place and you really want to learn this and do better, it's an incredible career. It's an incredible opportunity. And again, we get to keep preserving things that go on to the next generation. And I want to tell you also, you doing these kind of podcasts to bring this information out to more people and teach them and help is just really a great thing. And I want to thank you for doing that for the industry. I wish that I would have, that's one of the things I wish we would have done more of, because I think it's just really, really helpful. And so thank you for doing that.
Well, thank you for taking the time out of your day to join me, because that's one of the reasons that I enjoy doing the podcast, is that I get to talk to all these different interesting people, and I feel like I learned something at from each person that I talk to too. And I really, not that we're completely finished, but I've really enjoyed our conversation today. And even from a business standpoint, I feel like I've learned some things. So I've learned about stained glass more, and I've learned some business ideas that I think that are really, really good and smart ideas. So I really appreciate your taking the time to talk to me today too. So,
I appreciate what you're doing in interviews. Or several years ago, a couple years ago, in fact, it's still being replayed. I was hosting a radio show that was played on KFAX in San Francisco, someplace in San Diego, someplace in Dallas, called The Mentors, which it's still being played in a lot of the episodes, but it was all about business information, not just not particularly stained glass or preservation, but business. But anyhow, in my little bit of half a year's worth of hosting there, what you're doing is a lot harder than what people think, and you're doing a good job with it. So keep it up.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Some days I feel like I struggle, but
you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
A very good job.
Yeah. So, tell me a little bit about some notable projects that you've been involved in. I know you said there's a 120-year record, but if you could tell me just a couple.
Yeah, I mean, one of the longest commissions in history was West Point.
Okay.
I think it was a little over 60 years from start to finish. And then right there in 2014 and 15, we started restoring some of the first windows that we'd put in at West Point. So that's, obviously that's a famous building in the U.S. And there's been documentaries done on the windows, and just incredible. I mentioned St. John the Divine, which is, just a big, big church in New York City. And the windows are just incredibly far away. So they're done very, very architectural, big, very big, just unbelievable. There's always those who's who's. I mean, I remember the windows at Trinity in Trinity Episcopal in Galveston, Texas, after a hurricane came through, and they restored those. That was amazing. Repair of some Tiffany windows that was done in the studio. Honestly, we're just so fortunate. a lot of the more notable fun ones are listed in the American Legacy book and the Legacy on Stained Glass book. But, we have been able to bring solutions to churches that, in all parts, in every corner of every state in the union. And I mean, we even did one a couple years ago on an island in Alaska.
That's
and
fun. I bet
yeah, and I
logistically that was
mean,
hard though.
I mean, it was a little more challenging,
Yeah.
but the guys loved it. They got to put the truck and trailer on a barge and ride it for 2 days up to that particular island. And then people were coming from all over this island to see this historic church being done. I mean, it's certainly not a famous church, but it's certainly famous to us, and it was famous to everybody there. So I mean, that was super special. And honestly, there's just so many stories like that. The ones that are listed on the website, there's always those, there's the West Points and the St. John's of the Vine and the Grace Cathedral, and United Nations building and all kinds of things. But there's so many of those that out there, like that little Petersburg, Alaska church, that are so special.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Every time you get to help restore or preserve a building, it helps, keep it going to, for another 100 years. And so that's always, it doesn't matter if it's a national landmark, if you're part of that keeps it in service, that's important.
On the new Windows side, one of the most fun installations that we've had that was big, and I think it's one of the largest Episcopal churches in the country. I know it's where George and Barbara Bush went to church, because we did a window that they had bought.
Right.
Was St. Martin's Episcopal in Houston, and we had just finished like the second phase of that for a chapel area, and that's a pretty amazing church with a lot of amazing people that go there. And it was all new window. It wasn't restoration.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I guess someday
someday
the next generation will get to take care of them, but and it'll be from this studio, because the studio will last.
Yes.
So anyhow, I didn't give you a more specific answer.
No, I think that's great, and I think that's also. I mean, it's not restoration or preservation, but the fact that a president and his wife bought a stained glass window, like, when we sit in church, we're in a building that's 150 years old. So there's nobody that we know that, his name is at the bottom of that, the stained glass that have, paid for that section. But that's really exciting too. So that is going to be part of history.
I got to tell you a little fun thing that happened to me one Saturday afternoon. I was working with my longtime friend, and he's still a project manager for us. His name's Greg Bayless, and this is probably in the early 90s, and we were doing a project in New Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Oh yeah.
And there was a vent that we had to take out and do a little work on it, and it had folded up, and they were slamming it back in the room, and to take this vent out, and I did a little work on it. And I was cleaning it up, and I looked down, and the people that had made all these windows had engraved in all the lead their names.
Oh my goodness.
And there was like 15 or 16 people that had put their names on there. Like I think they even said we created these windows in whatever it was, 1903 or something. And every one of them had engraved their name into that lead. So we cleaned it all up and preserved it and protected it, and probably 100 years from now, somebody else will get to notice that.
Yes. Oh, that's really cool. So, we kind of talked about like working, get some of the pitfalls that people run into with like hiring contractors and things like that. Are there any other common mistakes that you see that people make with their stained glass windows?
Yeah, I think, we really just get too much into this, low bid thing.
Right.
And not that, I mean, look, we don't intend to be the low bidder. We intend to be the highest quality and the fairest price, and you pay
Right.
for what you get, and you get what you pay for. So I'm not sitting here telling you that because it really affects us that much, but it's a way that they come and look at things. And I would think if they would look at it better of what they're getting, they'd actually find out a lot of times that, what they think is the low bid is really not the low
Right.
bid.
And in the long run, it won't be.
Yeah, in the long run, it really won't be. I mean, there's some businesses out there that literally will kind of intentionally under prescribe a scope of work, knowing that they're going to come in and write change orders.
Yeah.
And honestly, from a business standpoint, I'd be way further ahead if I would prescribe to the same thing, because people seem to accept that because that's what construction has taught them, is there's always these scopes of work. But I've never wanted to do that.
Yeah.
So, we only do that for unforeseen things or actual changes that the customer brings to us. And that's never been our scope. So I've also seen that sometimes backfire on people. They'll go and they'll get this low price, and then they get change order death. And at the end of the day, they end up being 10% higher than what they would have been, because that's kind of the thing. And I just don't find that to be very ethical.
No, I agree with you. We hardly ever do change orders except for the reasons that you stated. Like, and I agree. I would rather figure the job out beforehand than, try to add on at the end.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, as you know, often it does not help. Does not help our cause, because because people will go, oh, they're just lower than you. Well, okay, they are today,
right?
And then they find out later on that they're not. But I think when people get in there, they need to spend more time actually calling references. I laugh about sometimes people will call references of work that was done by a particular company 20 years ago.
Right.
It's like, well, nobody that was involved in the project is there now.
It's still there, right?
And companies change a lot. I mean, the reality is ours changed a lot. Whenever we took over ownership, we changed a lot of things. Now we believe that we've improved everything and have helped it out, which we have. And but and it was a good studio before that too. But there's some that get bought out, changed, whatever, different generation takes over. So I think they need to be very active in looking at references that are current, that are recent. I think there's a lot of people that really need to check out the financial references of companies that they're going to be involved in. I mean, they're going out, they're doing work that, is often $1.5 million, $500,000, $100,000, whatever, significant. And,
right. Yeah.
And these people are asking for deposits, rightfully so. It works both ways. But you want to know that company is going to be there to finish, going to care about finishing, going to be able to finish. And it doesn't take a whole lot just to check that out. You can use resources like Dun & Bradstreet. You can ask for bank credits, and honestly, just looking at references of what they've done with other people, in the last 3 or 4 or 5 years is huge. And I mean, call them, get into conversations, ask around,
right.
And Better Business Bureau, all kinds of things. There's a lot of Google reviews. There's a lot of things. And I think it just comes back to just doing the due diligence to do that. Read everything that's on the contract. Look at them apples to apples. Ask the questions. Just don't make those mistakes. It's just not always that easy. If you find yourself overwhelmed, call us up. Say, hey, we're overwhelmed. We're really confused by this. Can you explain it to us?
Right.
I'll drive out there myself personally and sit down.
Right.
And we can put a whiteboard down until we get it figured out. So take the time. It's not embarrassing to not know. And just ask the questions. It's a big responsibility.
Yeah.
And we want to help people do it.
Yeah, I really agree with all of those. And that's one of the things that I talk about when we do seminars for homeowners is I'll say, of course you're going to pick a contractor that has insurance and has license, because everybody should have that. Like if anybody you're talking to should have that. But
right.
you need to make sure that they've done projects that are similar size to you, and you need to make sure that they understand the way your building was constructed, because they're not the same as that they're being constructed now. Like some yes that are special to our specialties that people don't maybe understand and don't know that they need to that have somebody else that understands them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So before we wrap up, is there anything that maybe as we were talking you thought about that that you wanted to share that I didn't think to ask you?
One of the things that I was just thinking about is we've offered this widget that does a calculation of basically when you do the repair work with us in a protective storm covering, it takes into effect the climate that you're in, the type of protective covering that you put up, the size of your windows, the size of your space, the maintenance that it saves you by doing these repairs and this installation of protective covering,
right.
And actually tells you how much it costs you over the years, and basically when the break-even point is for doing this method,
really cool.
Which I think is it's really amazing. I've run a lot of projects through it. It's been very successful, and it really puts things into perspective. The other thing that I want to offer everybody that you have listening to you and any clients that you have is we will go to your site for free. We will inspect your windows. We will provide you a proposal, turnkey costs, very explicit. We will also give you a replacement value of your windows.
Okay.
Which just blows people away. Okay. Because they sit there and they think, oh, our windows, they have no idea what they're worth. And then they see that they got $1.5 million worth of windows. It's a replacement cost.
And they should probably call their insurance company.
Exactly. That's a good point. And that's the reason why I started doing those replacement cost appraisals was exactly that. There was a church in McKinney, Texas that we did some repair work for, and about 3 months later it caught on fire. Well, next thing you know, the insurance company is calling in some studios these are Munich windows, and they didn't have painters that could paint this stuff. I mean, it was a joke. Right. It was ridiculous. I mean, it was literally like putting Band-Aids on, and this thing needed major surgery. Well, unfortunately, this church only had a $50,000 insurance policy.
No.
My bid was like $230,000.
Right.
Another bid was like $228,000. I mean, like there's 3 bids. We were all right around there within $5,000 or $6,000. And honestly, we're the only ones that had the quality of painters to do that. One of them was close, but not that. Well, the church is mad. The insurance company is mad because it would have cost them nothing to have it properly insured, right? Nothing additional. I mean, very little, $400. Right. I mean, it was like not much at that time. And so now the insurance company unrightfully is being held to a standard that they weren't getting paid for, which some of it was their own fault because basically when they wrote a policy, they didn't know the value.
Right.
Customer didn't know the value. They're all amateurs playing guessing games. So we said, let's eliminate that. So that's why we started doing free appraisals. Yeah. And I do them for insurance companies. We're about to do it for an insurance company that insures a bunch of churches nationwide. We've already do it for some regional ones.
Yeah.
And we do it for every church. And here's the other thing too about that inspection program. Not only do you get to know what they're worth so that you can make sure they're insured,
mm-hmm.
Not only do you have a snapshot of their current condition, you also have photo documentation of every window. In the last 7 years that we've been doing this, we have probably had 3 losses that I could think of, okay, from pretty major to just somebody, broke into the church, right, that we were able to duplicate the window based off the photo documentation we had. And guess what? The church or nobody there had the documentation. Right. We had it because we did it for them. And we had it on our servers protected for history.
Yeah.
And so we got the documentation, we got the value, everything went boom, 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 because we did it. So there is no reason that anybody that's got stained glass windows that's listening to your podcast and hearing this shouldn't be calling us to get a free inspection. It's free. You learn about it, and we doing all this work for you, and we're saving your information on our server. So if you ever need it, you're protected.
Yeah.
That's
a great service. Thank you very much.
Yes. I think that, it's just crazy that people don't do it. Fortunately, the Catholic diocese across the country, I think we've done 48 of them so far, and we've got more that we're working on now. Because of the way their organization is, it's easy to set up to do it. So, but we're working on that. There's 330,000 churches in our database, and we've probably got over 100,000 of them documented right now, and we're working on the rest. So that's what we do. I want everybody to take advantage of it. Go to our website, www.willethauser.com, download the project guide, send a request for information or a free inspection. Just call to say hi. I don't care. Let's communicate. Let's get something done. Let's protect these windows. Let's not make stupid mistakes. The information's there. Our 800 number is 800-533-3960. And let's start the process. And you know what? Don't use the excuse of, we want to do it someday, but it's going to be a few years. Start now. We'll plan for a few years.
Yeah, and that
I think longest. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I find that to be true with working with churches. It takes a little bit of time, but it's an education process, and you're willing. I'm sure you're very willing to kind of give them the steps that they need to move things forward, even if it is a few years away.
My record is 11 years.
Oh, my goodness.
First day we walked up and knocked on the door till we finally did the process, and we talked and became friends, and it's been 11 years. So I don't care. We love to do that. We've been around for over 120 years. We're not going anyplace.
Right.
And as our people retire, new ones grow, and this place will always be here. I think we're assured that. And we just want to keep restoring windows, take care of them for the next generation.
So, well, thank you very much for the work you do. And I will make sure that your website and your phone number are on our website where the podcast is actually housed. So if somebody's listening and they didn't get a chance to write it down, they can just go to our site and find your page there. But thank you very much for joining us or me today. I really appreciate it, and I enjoyed our conversation.
Well, thank you. Take care. If there's anything you need from us, let us know.
I will.
Thanks for listening to the Practical Preservation Podcast. The resources discussed during this episode are on our website at practicalpreservationservices.com/podcast. If you received value from this episode and know someone else that will get value from it as well, please share it with them. Join us next week for another episode of the Practical Preservation Podcast. For more information on restoring your historic home, visit practicalpreservationservices.com.